With how digitalized our world is now, you think we should have fully been accustomed to the use of screens, especially from folks of the Gen Z category. I mean, you probably spend more time in a day looking down during social interactions. It's not because you are bashful, but because you are socializing, but just through your phone. However, it seems despite the abundance of technology we have at our fingertips, literally, we prefer to, or at least comprehend better, when we use good old printed text to read on our screens. Print reading is kind of like meditation, focusing our attention on something still. And it's a whole different kind of immersion than responding to digital stimuli. I think it's healthy for us as human beings to sit down with something that doesn't move, ping, or call on our attention, says Ann Mangen, a literacy professor at the University of Stavanger in Norway. In a 2009 study, the marketing research company Millward Brown found that the brain processes physical and digital materials differently. Participants viewed advertisements in a screen and on a printed card while undergoing an fMRI scan. An fMRI scan is used to examine which parts of the brain are handling critical functions, evaluate the effect of stroke or other disease, or to guide brain treatments. Print material is visually less demanding than digital text. It provides spatial and tactile cues to help readers process words on the page. There's just something about our senses fully absorbing the material we read when we use print, and it goes beyond our senses taking it in. While listing jobs AI cannot replace, Dr. Michio Kaku mentioned emotional jobs as a category. That is, jobs which involve rapport with humans like therapy, teaching, counseling. These jobs deal highly with human emotions, something we use greatly when we study. See, there is something about bending the book, scratching the leaves, hearing it flip open, the dusty petrichor-like smell that fills our nostrils as our faces get dimly lit from the off-white pages. Apparently, we don't just use our sense of sight when reading. There is much more going on in our brains and other senses when we read or study. For one, for almost everything we do, we already depend on our brain. This object, being the central control system of our functions, will employ our senses and emotions when we read or study. In other words, to understand better what we read, we interact sensually with the words, and hard copy books make this so much easier. Personally, when reading, I once in a while scratch the book with my fingernails. It certainly is no pleasant feeling. It can be likened to scratching a blackboard, but I just can't help doing it every now and then. We certainly have some of these habits we are fond of when we read or study, and they are unknown to us until we observe or catch ourselves doing them. When holding a book, we receive reminders of how many pages we've read and how many remain. We can flip pages to reread text as needed. And there's a research on visual and motor cortices playing a role in the translation of foreign language words, which suggests that this is true. Earlier, I mentioned spatial cues play a role when we read. A 2017 study found participants' reading comprehension suffered when they scrolled through a comic book's individual panels instead of seeing them all at once. When we read, our brains construct a cognitive map of the text, like recalling that a piece of information appeared near the top left-hand page of a book. And you and I can agree that this came in handy when you found yourself sweating profusely in the exam hall, desperate to recall that one word that can boost your marks. Imagine drawing a map of something with constantly moving landmarks, like a web page. It's harder to map words that aren't in a fixed location because we lose important visual placeholders. It's easier for you to locate items in your house because they have a fixed location. So even when there's a blackout, you know how to feel your way through the dark and locate whatever it is you're looking for, usually your torchlight, without getting injured along the way. But imagine if your house changed shape every now and then, like it's something Cobbs from Inception designed. Well, just pray there'll be no blackouts then. In that box weighing only 0.3 pounds you are holding in your palm is a portal to many more information. You scroll through your digital text quickly so you can move on to the next information available in your phone. It's almost like when you read anything at all on our phone, is a reminder that there is more from where that came from. And as a human that you are, created by default with curiosity to aid survival, you want to know more. Another factor Trackman observed is that people associated screen time with casual web surfing, so they may rush through without fully absorbing the text. Many people voted it to be the worst season of SpongeBob SquarePants, but one episode in season 6 is, in my opinion, loaded with lessons that even go beyond the subject of this video. In the Not Normal episode of that season, we learned that having a personality is a big difference. In his pursuit to be able to fit into society as just a normal lad, SpongeBob goes to the extent of becoming so regular that he strangles every iota of eccentricity and loses his squareness. Consequently, SpongeBob becomes so boring and predictable even for Squidward. His new character leads to his job getting threatened and he decides to go back to his abnormal self. The main lesson from that episode was that there's just one or more distinctive traits or character that helps us identify the difference in each person we relate with. It also goes far in determining how we relate with them, and even books. In addition to using more senses and spatial cues to study better, turns out we give books a personality. The cover design, the feel and color, the page you left an oil stain on, the dog-eared pages, they all give the book a sort of personality and makes it easier to recall information you got from it. I strongly believe this is the idea behind pop-up books for children. The message is not just read, but sort of experienced, felt, personalized, and thus well understood and internalized. It's also important to point out that Merabian believed that the person receiving a communication trusts the element which most accurately reflects the communicator's true feelings towards them. From the studies, it would appear that more is conveyed by the non-verbal cues than by the spoken word. In comparison, we can say that pictures or illustrations make it easier to recall what you read or studied. And I'm not saying adults should start protesting for authors to include pictures and illustrations into their textbooks or novels. I'm saying that hard copy or print materials give our brains the opportunity to personalize what we read, which helps it better understand. This personalization goes beyond understanding what we read. It also helps us understand life better. An example is how you make a face out of an inanimate object. That's your brain trying to give meaning and personality to better understand that object. Screen, on the other hand, doesn't have a personality. I dare say technology does not and may never have this personality. It's so regular and predictable. It's garbage in and garbage out. I'll give you an example. There's a sort of too nice way chatbots communicate with users. I mean, just look at that WhatsApp chatbot that is too agreeable. This is the aspect of humans that technology may never be able to replace, but that's a discussion for another day. Sticking with the Nickelodeon theme, Norma was boring, as Andre said to Tori in her first day at school. Her desire for knowledge, intrigue, and adventure is most likely what makes your brain struggle when reading or studying using screen than print or hard copy. And that adventure starts out with a personal and sensuous understanding of what we are venturing into. Where personality lacks, we are likely to disengage, hence a struggle, and in this case, studying using screens. Before you watch this video, and even now, you may want to stick with your preferred device for reading and studying. Print or screen, do let me know in the comments.